Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery and welcome back to my One Piece journey. I have read just this much of One Piece. It feels slightly less accomplished holding one volume up, but Amazon Lily was a very tight 10 chapters, I believe. 514 to 524. Now I know you'd probably expect this video a lot sooner, it being a 10 chapter arc, I think the shortest in the series, at least for a very long time. Life has just been keeping me busy, all these real world commitments I've had to do. I unfortunately haven't been able to put as much time into the channel and into reading as I would like, but I've finally been able to read Amazon Lily, and you know what, even though it was frustrating not having time to work on YouTube, it was kind of nice to take a breather after the last arc where it was quite an intense ending, and it kind of made me miss the Strawhats and get that urge to really jump in again, because sometimes I find if I just binge a series non-stop without any breaks and just freaking powering to the finishing line, you kind of go back and you trying to recall what happened and you're like, I actually can't remember half of it because I was just blitzing through it. So in a way it's nice to have these longer breaks. I'm sorry for the delays it causes to the channel though. So after the insane ending of our last arc where all of our crew members got thrown across the world of One Piece by Kuma, we jumped straight into Amazon Lily, and it was such a fantastic time. It's, you know, this arc kind of reminded me of post Enies Lobby, big player intrigue, especially towards the end here, and it kind of gave me what I said I was craving at the end of my last review of just an introspective solo focus on Luffy for a while, and it really delivered. It was very cool to see Luffy without his crew, without all these people he's relied on for so long, have to kind of Luffy his way through this situation. He's just such a one-of-a-kind character. It was endlessly entertaining watching him navigate this island of Amazon Lily. I found the beginning of this arc extremely emotional, watching Luffy fly through the sky, especially in the anime too. These shots were so beautiful, and it was just these quiet moments of Luffy not knowing what the hell is going on, missing his crew, just sort of wailing and being thrown throughout the sky for 3 days, was just, I don't know, this kind of resonated with me quite a lot. Yeah, I'm not really great at articulating why this worked so well for me, but I like that Oda didn't just jump straight into where is he landed. It's given us this moment of pain, this extra gut punch, really making him feel the loss of the Straw Hats and making us wonder what the hell is going to happen next. And in great Luffy fashion, he lands in a jungle and starts doing magic mushrooms in about 5 seconds. And whilst this scene is really silly and really funny, especially as soon as the voice actress for Luffy does his laugh, it's just the most infectious laugh. But beyond that, just the fact that Luffy was feeling so down, he's just like craving an escape and looking for anything to alter his emotional state, I think showed quite a lot about how heavy this loss has been for him. Even though it was executed in quite a funny way, I found myself really empathizing with him in this scene. Just, you know, when you're so upset and so distraught and life has got you so down, you kind of start going a bit mad. This is how that scene came across to me, and I really loved that Oda did that. This dynamic between him and this wild boar was pretty funny too, and the way it cut to it being a skeleton and Luffy just chilling after a nice meal. Yeah, I mean, does it get much more One Piece than that? I don't know. From this point, Luffy is picked up and we are introduced to the town, the island, the village of Amazon Lily, where only women live, and sometimes they leave, but they only come back with female children. It was very cool design as always. You always expect an impressive world or an idea or a theme executed when you're going to a new island in One Piece, and Amazon really continued that absolutely. This interaction of these women seeing a man for the first time was quite something. Man, that shot of Luffy covered in the mushrooms that grew on him was like some Junji Ito level horror manga stuff. It just sends like a weird feeling when you see that. And of course, I suppose we're going to talk about them trying to remove the last mushroom of Luffy. I'm pretty sure we all just cringed in pain as we read that scene. Just seeing how chill Luffy was about being completely bare in front of all these women, just explaining the anatomy of men, was just so weird, but just so fitting. He's just like, what? Yeah, this is what you're dealing with. Why are you so confused? He's not even embarrassed. He's just like, who's got my straw hat? This is the most important thing. So we've had these emotional moments with Luffy. We've had him arriving at Amazon Lily, and we've learned a little bit about the culture and the customs there. And we are then introduced to the most important character and the most beautiful character, of course, as you all know, and as I'm sure you've all been fans of for a long time, Boa Hancock. And just like every other person in the manga, I fell in love immediately as well. I don't know if it was the love fruit or just Boa herself, but there's something about, when you make an entrance and you're going to kick an innocent kitten in your way, I'm at least going to be curious about what the hell your issue is. And this is where we started to get more of the greater world building stuff, which I love to see more of this being tied into the narrative. We meet a new Vice Admiral, Momonga, I wrote in my notes, may have got that wrong, but he's basically saying, hey, you're a warlord of the sea, Boa. And I was like, that hit me. I was like, holy crap, I didn't really expect that to be the case, and that she needs to be going to Impel Down because of the execution of Ace, and it's going to start this whole war with the Whitebeard pirates. And it was just like, my god, this is getting real serious real quick. And this sense of urgency was building up within me, like Luffy needs to get moving, because right now he's just taking magic mushrooms and there's bigger issues at hand. I thought this was a great way to introduce Boa, like I said, like kicking an innocent kitten in your introduction scene. I'm fairly sure it was in that scene, and having her turn this entire crew of Marines into stone, and having the Vice Admiral have to stab himself just to make him stop feeling this attraction to her, I suppose. Very impactful and very, very badass way to introduce Boa. And, she acts terrible throughout pretty much this entire arc until you learn a bit more about her. But I still couldn't help feeling this intrigue to her, because not just because, oh yeah, she's beautiful, whatever, she's a drawing, okay, I'm gonna be fine. I've read enough One Piece now to not judge any of these characters by their first actions, or judge a book by its cover, so to speak. That goes for all of One Piece. You can look at One Piece, most people would look at One Piece and be like, what is this Saturday morning kids cartoon? Why are you reading this? Go read, I don't know, Shakespeare or something, whatever. The point is, I know that Oda really, really develops his characters, gives them depth, and no one is quite as simple as they seem or as straightforward as they come across when you first meet them, just like real life. So I was watching what Boa was doing and thinking, how is Oda gonna make me freaking sympathize, empathize, enjoy, feel for this character, regardless of all that happened with Robin, and I had a feeling it would happen with Boa as well. And that's just a testament to how well Oda fleshes out his characters. It was very interesting getting some more world building moments here. These women on Amazon Lily were lacing their arrows with haki energy. It seems like haki is going to have 1,000,001 applications that I'm still learning now, and it became even more impactful throughout this arc too. I liked how we got a lot of different looks into the culture of Amazon Lily and a lot of different hints to the lineage. We met the grandma who used to be the leader there, and she's talking to Boa about the previous generations, and Boa just throws her out the window. And this really Boa was giving me like Cusco energy from The Emperor's New Groove, just throwing people out the window that they weren't a fan of, and they'll forgive me because I'm beautiful. And that joke somehow landed every time for me. I don't know why. And the fact that she looks down on people so hard that she starts to look up, I don't know, that was just, yeah, good on you, Oda. Got a chuckle out of me. I liked that there was this whole myth created about Boa and, is it the Gorgon sisters? The three of them together, and how, they defeated Medusa or the Gorgon or whatever, the equivalent of like Medusa, and they have the eyes on their back, and if you see them you'll turn to stone. And I was buying that. I was following this narrative. I saw that Boa Hancock could do this without showing the eyes on her back and just turn people to stone, but for some reason I was still buying into this story, and I don't know if that says that I'm not a close enough reader, but I was just like immersed in it at that point. I'm like, oh cool, that's their backstory, interesting, I'm sure he'll play with that later. And now I feel kind of stupid for like not even considering the fact that they're playing this entire island for whatever reason they had. It was really funny seeing Luffy's consistent sort of miscommunications and misunderstandings. Usually I can't deal with those, but they were quite tastefully done here. And watching the women of Amazon Lily kind of start to come around to Luffy and see, wow, this guy is actually so genuine, and even though he's a bit odd, he seems really forthcoming and really honest and really noble. And Luffy having to kind of figure out how the hell he's going to get out of the situation, find his crewmates. Is he going to get on a boat? Is he going to find a new way out? And his head literally starts hurting so much from thinking. And he finally puts together that very important people live in big buildings. And we cut to Luffy flying through the sky, landing through the roof of the bathhouse and meeting Boa Hancock. And this is where things get incredibly complicated and messy. And just when I thought there wasn't going to be that much action in this arc, we get a whole Colosseum battle sequence, which was much more entertaining than I anticipated. I was kind of, once this was introduced, I was like, oh man, I can't be bothered with a fight scene here. I want more character building, I want more world information, I want things to move forward. I didn't want just like chapters and chapters of a fight. But like he always does, Oda kept me enthralled during this whole thing, and it was so cool to meet characters who were just fighting in such a unique and different way. And I was so keen for Luffy to prove himself, and you know, Boa has turned all these lovely people who have come around to Luffy into stone, and I needed that to be rectified and fixed. And I knew if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Luffy. And it was brilliant to see someone call Boa out on all her terrible behavior. And when he said, "You make me sick," I just felt that so hard. Luffy had some really good moments in this fight. It was very cool to see that, is it Sanda Sonia and Marigold, the two sisters, have variants of the snake fruit. I like seeing these new variants of devil fruits. We had the Anaconda one and the King Cobra. And it was great to see them using haki to anticipate Luffy's moves, and Luffy being tested in an entirely new way here. And it's kind of making me think back. A few people have been anticipating moves throughout the series, and I'm just like, were all of those instances haki as well? I really appreciated the moment where Luffy was wishing Chopper was there to help heal all the women who were turned to stone, just like when Aokiji turned him and Robin into ice. I love these callbacks. It makes it feel more interconnected. Where old arcs never used to be referred to each other in the early days, now they really are, and it's making it feel like a much more cohesive and enjoyable story. What an incredible moment when they were about to twist Marguerite, whatever her name is, to death from stone, and Luffy screams, "Stop it now," and he knocks out everyone, just like Rayleigh did back in the auction house. Freaking incredible moment. I'm just so intrigued, and I have so many questions about how Luffy is able to do this. What is giving him such immense power and such immense haki, I guess you would call it, to like knock out an entire arena? Incredible scene. They and everyone else seemed amazed too. They said it was the haki of the Supreme King, and the only other person they know can do that is Boa. And it just gets me so excited to see how far Luffy's going to go in his ability. And what a cool moment when everyone has been shocked about what Luffy can do, and he just goes into his iconic gear second pose and says, "I'm not going to hold back now, let's freaking go." And this is the moment where Oda marries some of the two greatest things about One Piece. Really good fight, really good choreography, tense moments, plus character building and character defining moments where you just fall in love with these characters even more and feel like he's really doing them justice and giving you these moments that you didn't know you wanted, but as soon as they happen, you're like, yeah, I did want that. That makes perfect sense. And the moment I'm referring to is when Luffy chooses to cover the symbol on their backs. And you know, he had this moment earlier where he thought he'd recognized it before, and he knows that they're not able to see it. They don't want anybody to see this. Because of that, because of how much he respects even their side of things, his enemy at this point, he still covers it because he knows he doesn't want anything else to go wrong to all of these innocent people or even the people he's fighting. And it just shows like Luffy holds so much empathy, and I think that makes him just such a lovable and endearing character all the way throughout this entire series. And it shows that he has quite a lot of intelligence too, a special kind of Luffy intelligence that is separate from most kinds of intelligence, but intelligence nonetheless, and it's always great to see Oda stay true to that. He has a real feel for this character, and it makes me wonder if anyone, you think about, could another author continue this series? You wouldn't want that to ever happen, but I kind of feel like there's certain authors and the relationships with their characters, I don't know if anyone could carry it the same way Oda does, or come even close, really. Regardless, this is where we get into the strongest part of the arc for me, and always a strong part of every arc is diving into some backstory. Even though this was light backstory, it was so tastefully done and so well executed, and this was looking into Boa and her sister's backstory and the meaning behind the symbol on their back, and I loved how this was done. I loved the story behind it. I think it's awful what happened to them, but I love how he's tied this into the world and how closely it ties into the previous arc with the Celestial Dragons. Before that, I'll just touch on the fact that Luffy choosing to save all of the women turned to stone instead of a new ship. Another classic Luffy moment, and I'm glad it earned the respect of everyone around him. Just very, very great scene as always. But anyway, back to the backstory. The symbol on their backs being the hoof of the Celestial Dragons, and learning about their history of slaves explained so much about their actions and their attitudes, and especially their attitudes towards men. Like the terrible acts that Oda was implying that had happened to Boa and her sisters are just terrible, like just absolutely terrible. The things that they must have gone through in the hands of those Celestial Dragons, and how they said the Celestial Dragons gave them the devil fruits just for entertaining purposes. It just makes you sick to think about where Oda's taking your mind in these scenes. And again, he's not shying away from the serious topics like human trafficking and slavery and abuse. Like he goes and he's so tasteful with how he does it, because he knows there's a younger audience reading this too, and it's enough to get their message across without being too graphic or too shocking, or being too traumatic and kind of really shaking you as you read it. But if you are old enough and mature enough, you can gather more from what he's implying. It just serves all the audiences. It's like when you watch a children's movie which has jokes that kids will kind of laugh at, but there's also another level for the adults too. He does that, but he balances that tone with the serious, darker side of One Piece, and it's so well done. I really, really enjoyed the story of Fisher Tiger, this old leader of the fishmen who climbed up the Red Line and burnt down all of the Celestial Dragons' homes. And it's so cool how Luffy made this connection between the hoof of the Celestial Dragons and the symbol on Hachi's forehead, I believe it's on his forehead, and getting all of this world building filled in, that the fishmen were covering this tattoo, this mark, and creating it into a symbol of strength. And it's carried through to all the pirates there, and you don't necessarily know who's covered it up or just gotten this as a fresh tattoo. I loved that sense of world building. I love that I can go back to the early chapters and know that it is part of a cohesive and like completely well realized world. It just makes this series continue to get better and better for me, and these are the little touches that tie it together so beautifully. It might seem like a little scene, a little moment, but for me it's massive. I love this line from Boa when she said, "Even if it means deceiving my people, I have to continue the pretense. I don't want anyone to control me ever again." And it explains so much about her, and in one chapter I flipped a 180 and I understand why you're a bit standoffish and a bit rude at times. And this is where Oda's like, alright, enough chill arc with little moments referring to the rest of the world. I'm gonna just jam pack the last few chapters with what the hell is going on elsewhere. And thank you, Oda, this is exactly what I wanted. Luffy gets the message, the news about Ace from the newspaper. He's like, I got something to do, I've got to get to it. And I'm like, yes. He gets Boa on side. Boa is basically in love with Luffy because he's a great person and he's the first person immune to all of her love. There's a lot to delve in there and talk about Luffy and who he is and why it is that way, but I'm just way too excited. We'll talk about it one day. but I'm just way too excited to talk about all the greater stuff that's happening right now, because I just feel like the next arc is going to be insane. I'm going to miss some things, but these are the things that stood out to me. Okay, we're seeing all the pieces being set up for Ace's execution here, and literally everyone has a part to play here, and I'm so hyped to see all these characters back. Okay, we get introduced or alluded to a new warlord, Jinbei, who's against the whole thing. Interesting. I'm curious to meet him. They just showed a silhouette. Why is he against it? I don't know. Alright, next thing. Let's keep going. Kizaru took like 500 people prisoner because he's really upset and they're going through paperwork. I don't know what the hell's going on. Garp is in Impel Down visiting Ace. Okay, cut from there. What's next? The Navy had 23 ships watching Whitebeard to see what was going on. They've all got contact. Why? What did Whitebeard do? Did he just like destroy all the ships? Where did they go? What is happening? He doesn't tell us. Okay, next. What's the next thing to talk about here? I'm a little bit excited. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because this is really good. With all of that going on, Oda's like, hey, remember all the other Strawhats you've known and loved for like half a thousand chapters? Here's what they're up to. They're all on islands that have something to do with their character, which kind of suggests Kuma did this to help them. How did Kuma know so much about them? How did he know to send them to these islands that would improve their character and make them reminisce and think and be introspective and learn? And why is this so interesting? So we see Nami on a sky island, another sky island, all about weather. Coincidence? I think not. We have a mechanical island for Frankie. Coincidence? Probably not. And we see Sanji on another island of women, but women that Sanji I don't think would be very into, which will probably humble him quite a bit. And it's lucky, it's a good thing Sanji was not on Amazon Lily. I feel like he would just forget about the Straw Hats for life and move on. We see Usopp on an island with a forest of bandits. Not really sure how that's got to do with Usopp's character or how that's going to play into things. I was reading kind of fast at this point because I was so excited. Might need to go back and check that out. Brook has... I love the way they show Oda showed where Brook was, how he's part of this ritual, and they're like, finally, this person's been, the demon's back from the dead or something. And Brook's like, what's going on? And he asks to see someone's panties, and they're like, quickly show him your panties, this is part of the ritual. That joke landed for me that time because it was just so ridiculous. I felt terrible seeing Robin being part of this slave group that is against the world government. They're building this bridge for 700 years. I hope she gets the hell out of there quickly. Chopper's about to be made into a stew because he's on an island where birds are running the show, apparently. Alright. And Zoro, our boy Zoro, is with Hora girl. I still can't think of her name. Paloma? Something. They're gonna team up. I don't know why or how, or where Oda's going with that. But look, okay, I've rambled a bit. But I loved seeing what everyone was doing, where everyone has landed, and I just don't know how he's going to tell their stories whilst we've got this entire execution thing going on. And then, after all of that, we see the Warlords meeting up together, meeting at Marijora, all eating together, and Oda states, or the narrator states, that they know that they're not going to work together. And it ends with Garp saying to Ace, we've angered the King of the Sea. I'm assuming that's referring to Whitebeard. Look, we've got the Admirals showing up. We've got the freaking Warlords showing up. We've got Garp showing up. I've been calling Rayleigh Garp this whole time, haven't I? I'm going back to check. This is terrible. Hey, they're two old guys. They're two powerful old guys. I'm going to get the names wrong sometimes. No, it was Garp. It was Garp. But Rayleigh's probably going to be there too. Look, there's a lot going on. I'm overstimulated with One Piece. I read these 10 chapters in basically one sitting and I'm very excited. Amazon Lily, what a great arc. I missed a lot, but I hope I gave you a sense of how I felt about it. I loved seeing Luffy by himself having to use his new smarts. I thought Boa Hancock was an incredible new character and I hope we see a lot more of her. I was so happy to see glimpses of the crew. And look, I just feel like the next arc is going to be insane. The amount of storylines and characters converging. I even saw Doflamingo there. Dude, it's gonna be nuts. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to talk to you all about it. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all the feedback and all the interaction and all the love you guys have given this series. One Piece fans, you guys have just been fantastic the whole way through. I'll see you in the next arc. I believe it's Impel Down, and I'm sure I'll have a lot to talk about. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.